Part 34. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 331. Chapter 331. You can do whatever you want in the first half, but I will do my best in the second half. Several more questions were asked one after another, and everyone gradually adapted to the rhythm of answering, and the competition suddenly became fierce. At the same time, the audience who became nervous along with the guests also made new discoveries. What's going on with Zhang Lingzi? I didn't see her hand on the bell for 3 questions in a row. Are you planning to give up on answering? It doesn't look like I'm letting anyone else do it. I think I just don't know how to do it. To be honest, these questions are quite simple. I can answer most of them. Zhang Lingzi is a bit too pushy. Celebrities, their knowledge of calligraphy and painting is definitely not as good as that of amateur guests who are professional in painting. But if this continues, she will be ranked last, and Jinghui will be second to last as expected. However, this also proves that the program team does not have any shady secrets or omissions. No matter you are an actor or star, you will still not be given face as expected of the national television. After the host on the stage glanced at the scores of the guests, he couldn't help but glance in Zhang Lingzi's direction. He took a sip and reminded, "The game is getting more and more intense. Next, I want to remind you. Everyone, the difficulty of the following questions will be increased and the time span will be longer. Please be careful when ringing the bell." Sure enough, after the host finished speaking the topic, the scene of people rushing to ring the bell paused for several seconds. This topic is really too unfamiliar, and it is a work that has been written nearly 2,000 years ago. Ding, ding. 2 bells rang in succession, and for a moment everyone's eyes were focused on the 2 hands that were pressing the bell. Are these 2 in a hurry? Zhang Lingzi turned her head and looked over, and when she met Jinghui's gaze, she decisively looked away. The host was also startled. This time the ones ringing the bell are Zhang Lingzi and Jinghui. I'm not sure because the interval is too short. Let's watch the replay first. The replay of the bell ring immediately appeared on the big screen and was slow played. Looking at it this way, Jinghui is 0.3 seconds faster than Zhang Lingzi. Then Jinghui will answer. If the answer is wrong, the right to answer will be handed over to Zhang Lingzi. If all the answers are wrong, the question will be invalid. Please answer. Jinghui breathed a sigh of relief first, then picked up the phone and said the answer he thought of. However, he is not very sure about this answer, but he can't wait any longer. If this continues, he will be second to last even if he is not the last one. No matter which one sounds good, he might as well give it a try. The host's regretful voice came from the side. Unfortunately, the answer was wrong. Now the right to answer the question belongs to Zhang Lingzi. Jinghui first glanced at the last part of his name, then couldn't help but look in the direction of Zhang Lingzi, and heard a confident voice, "The author is Qiu Chen's brother Qiu Mao." Congratulations to Zhang Lingzi, the answer is correct, +1 point. He closed his eyes and comforted himself. It was just a coincidence. After all, when he answered, he was not sure which one he was talking about between the 2 brothers. But since his answer was wrong, the correct answer was the other person. In this game, he handed the points to Zhang Lingzi. But what he didn't expect was that this nightmare had just begun. Zhang Lingzi, please answer the question. Congratulations to Zhang Lingzi. Ginger. Congratulations. The host's voice on the stage unknowingly turned into an infinite loop, and the audience in the audience were also stunned. Is this the legendary way of doing whatever you want in the first half, and I'll do my best in the second half? I was dumbfounded, and I felt that the other guests were also dumbfounded, and they felt like giving up the struggle. Ha ha ha. I'll give this 13.99 points, and I'll give you 1 point less to make you proud. At the commentator's seat, Li Wangxuan was also a little dumbfounded. I really didn't see whether this girl really didn't know how to do it in the first half or gave other people a chance. After all, whether it was the first half or the second half, the expression on this girl's face didn't change much. Even ringing the bell seemed more casual. Compared with Jianyaya, who was about to ring the bell and hugged her, this contrast just don't make it too obvious. Hearing this, Shen Yunqing had a clear smile in his eyes. Probably he is the only one who knows about the previous questions. His Majesty really doesn't know how to answer them. How could your Majesty, 1,000 years ago, know about future generations? As far as he knew, His Majesty was learning high school knowledge from the Gerlanen. So far, it was only about mathematics and politics, and it had not yet touched upon Chinese language and history, which were slightly related to calligraphy and painting. But for Yuan Zhao's future problems, he believed that no one could compare with His Majesty. The last question the host couldn't help but paused as he said that, and looked at the score screen. Zhang Lingzi's name had risen from last to third. If we also work hard in the first half, then there should be nothing else to do with the first place, right? Please list the paintings and calligraphy works produced by the first female emperor in history, Empress Yuan Zhao, at least 3. Zhang Lingzi, who has firmly secured the third position and is unable to go any further even if he answers another question, is about to give up answering. Seeing the stunned look on His Majesty's face after hearing the title, Shen Yunqing couldn't help but chuckle. This made Zhang Nashuan, who was sitting next to him, turn to look at him. This question was asked by me, do you think it's a bit unfamiliar? No, very good, very interesting. Zhang Nashuan. So you laugh at the questions he asked? Ding ding ding. 3 bells sounded in distinguishable order. Zhang Lingzi was stunned for a moment after hearing the question and lost to Jianyaya, who is currently ranked second. There are crane, carp, and black tortoise. Her Majesty the Queen likes to paint all kinds of animals the most. It's a pity that there are so few works in existence. She can't compete with some of the great painters of the same period. Congratulations Jianyaya, the answer is correct. At the same time as the applause sounded, Zhang Lingzi raised her eyes without any trace, and met Shen Yunqing's smiling eyes. I thought silently in my heart, although Black Turtle may no longer be seen, the Black Turtle in the painting is still living a good life. And her animal series should also include a panda cub. Asterisk. The quiz game is over and the final ranking has been released. The first and second ones are Lu Sen and Jianyaya respectively. One of them comes from a family of calligraphers and painters, and the elder of the other family is a professor at the Academy of Fine Arts. It is not surprising that they stand out among the 7 guests. The third is Zhang Lingzi who came from behind, the fourth is Shen Heshan, the fifth is Su Yi, and the sixth is Lin Yo who is not used to playing this kind of game. Without Zhang Lingzi's help from the bottom, Jing Huai successfully finished in the last place. I can only say that most people on stage are quite satisfied with their rankings. Select scenes according to the rules at the beginning and in order of ranking. Lu Sen stepped forward with his head raised, and after browsing through the names of the 7 scenes, he reached out and took down one of them. Su Yi looked at Yuya who was still firmly in place and breathed a sigh of relief. Then it was Jianyaya's turn, but the girl did not step forward immediately. Instead, she held the wheat at her collar, turned to look at Su Yi, and asked in a low voice, Sister Su Yi, do you have anything you want to choose, scene? Su Yi hesitated for a moment, then nodded lightly. She is ranked 5th, and there is still a high possibility that the selected scene will be selected in advance. Which one? Rainy night. That's good, I didn't plan to choose this. She still prefers the sunny, dry, and beautiful picture. After Jianyaya made her choice, Zhang Lingzi stepped forward according to her ranking. After glancing at the remaining 5 scenes, take Heshan. When she got used to the VR glasses yesterday, she remembered that the scene was overlooking all the lakes and seas, and the mountains were rolling like dragons. To be honest, she hadn't seen enough. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 332. Shen Heshan followed Zhang Lingzi and watched her choose river and mountain. He hesitated for a moment and then chose mountain and sea, a scene that looked very similar to river and mountain. Suyi stepped forward and directly took down the yi. He was relieved after getting what he wanted. There were only 2 scenes left. Lin Yo looked back at Jing Huai, who was behind him, and took the word end with a tense look on his face. He has reached the end of his life, and whether he can survive or not depends on this. Jing Huai had no choice. Fortunately, he was less willing to choose the end than Fei Lu, who was chosen by everyone. The meaning of this word is really not good, as if his acting career is coming to an end. Being picked out by Lin Yo first, he could barely make him feel happy. While the guests were choosing scenes, the backstage staff in the recording hall were also busy. 7 desks were brought up and arranged in a fan shape on the stage. There is also a large table with all pens, inks, paper and ink stones available. Guests can come forward and choose according to their needs. Now, let us leave the stage to the 7 guests. They have 10 minutes to put on VR glasses and immerse themselves in the scene of their choice. After that, there will be 2 hours of creative time, during which they can put on the glasses and repeat watch. Our evaluator will step down from time to act as an invigilator. Guests, please be careful not to be influenced by our serious evaluator. After speaking, the host waved to the audience and the guests who stayed on the stage, and walked off the stage with a perfect smile. After the guests took their seats in front of the tables marked with their chosen scenes, they all put on the VR glasses that had been placed on the table. On the big screen behind them, pictures from 7 scenes were also randomly displayed. It turns out that this river and mountain is a great river and mountain overlooking us. Is Zhang Lingzi going to draw a picture of a 1,000-mile river and mountain? I can't finish the painting in 2 hours. It's enough to just choose one scene. The flowers Qian Yaya chose are beautiful. I want to know, does such a beautiful garden really exist? The end is originally a picture of the end of the world. I think it would look better if I painted it with oil painting. The flying stream is indeed a waterfall, and the waterfall is also a highlight of the ink painting. I don't understand why Lin Yo didn't choose this one. When I heard about mountains and seas, I thought of the classic of mountains and seas. Would Shen Heshan want to try drawing a 9-tailed fox? The bamboo sea in Lucerne is probably the easiest, but it's also difficult to paint with color. No one knows that the ancestors of the Lu family are famous for painting bamboos. He must be trying to pay tribute to his ancestors. I didn't expect that Suyi would choose a rainy night. It's hard to draw a rainy scene just thinking about it. The audience in the audience just watched the scenes flashing on the big screen and discussed a few words with their neighbors when they saw that some guests had already taken off their VR glasses. Has 10 minutes passed? I haven't had enough of watching so many scenes. Zhang Lingzi was not satisfied with watching it, but once the set time came, her eyes became blank. When I took off my glasses, I saw that everyone else was standing still, looking like they were thinking seriously. Until someone in the audience couldn't help but exclaimed. She turned around and saw that Suyi had already headed towards the big table in the back. It seems that the idea has been completed, and it is just waiting to put down what is in my heart on paper. So fast. I didn't expect this girl to be number 1. Zhang Nashuan listened to the voice coming from next to him, and his eyes fell on Suyi, who was already selecting pen, ink, and paper. He remembered that Jian Sheng always paid great attention to flashes of inspiration, but he didn't expect that the disciples he taught were the same. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at the corner of the recording hall, where a little girl wearing denim overalls was looking towards the stage with bright eyes. What a resemblance! Let's do the math. The paternity test results will be out soon. When Suyi returned to the desk with the selected pen, ink, paper, and inkstone, Shen Heshan couldn't help but glance at her. I wanted to ask her how she came up with the idea so quickly, but she was too embarrassed to ask because she was worried about the camera. Jing Hui was the second to take action. The scene of the waterfall gave him a lot of confidence. Over the years of traveling and filming, he even hung a wire in front of the waterfall, which gave him a lot of confidence in this creation. It doesn't matter if we were last in the previous quiz game, now is the highlight. The things on the big table are decreasing rapidly, and now others can't sit still. It would be really sad if you come up with a good idea but don't have the appropriate paper, pen, and paint. Qianyaya breathed a sigh of relief after grabbing the silk paper and the outline pen. She was going to draw her best Gongbai painting, and the flower scene was just right for this. By the way, she gave an apologetic look to Shen Heshen, who was about to pick up the outline pen, but she beat him to it. Zhang Lingzi looked at the remaining materials on the table, and first reached for the largest brush that no one was interested in. She also chose the largest paper, and the selected paints. Everyone sitting in the audience couldn't help but look at each other. You don't really intend to paint 1,000 miles of mountains and rivers, do you? I've tried painting with this large brush, and it's so difficult to control. All I can say is that she's very confident. We'll see. Whether the painting is a pitch black mess or a stunning work, you will know after 2 hours. Surprisingly, the last pick was Lin Niu. At this moment, there is not much room to choose from on the big table. 3 or 2 brushes, both of which are not commonly used for painting. There are also very few paper pigments. The people sitting in the audience couldn't help but sneered when they looked at Lin Niu, who still looked calm. It's hard for a clever woman to make a meal without rice, but he wanted to see what kind of stunning paintings Lin Niu could draw with such meager materials. If you still want to rely on this program to clear your name, just go to sleep. Zhang Lingzi arranged the materials she brought back one by one according to her own habits, and then put on the VR glasses at hand. Shen Yunqing watched her movements and couldn't help thinking. When the recording of the program is over, let her take one away. Then he thought that someone else had used the VR glasses in front of this program group, so he looked naturally and picked up the mobile phone placed aside. Unlock, click on the person, and send a message. I remember that your latest model of VR glasses can also be customized. Shen Qingzhou, the chairman of Kingian Technology Company, who is busy with everything, touched the buzzing and vibrating mobile phone, and immediately sat up straight after seeing the profile picture flashing on the screen. By the time he clicked through and read the message, the excitement on his face had turned into the expression of a subway grandpa looking at his phone. Brother, has your account been hacked? Do you want to customize VR glasses with me? Is this really his cousin who has never been very interested in the things developed by their company? Yes, or no? Shen Qingzhou. This tone seems to be a real cousin. Ding ding ding, whatever you want is fine. Even if it was not customizable originally, it must now become of course customizable. It's rare to see his cousin asking for something from him. That's not right. Shen Qingzhou frowned as he looked at the interface where the other party was typing. This is a bit abnormal. Then he typed in a crackle, cousin, tell me honestly, are you attracted to a young girl and want to use my glasses to make her happy? Shen Yunqing was questioned for the first time in his life because of his abnormal behavior. After looking at the message he had just sent for a few seconds, he silently moved his gaze to the figure in the center of the stage who was wearing VR glasses and was enjoying himself. The green hair is like a waterfall, bright and bright. That's right, that's right. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 333. Chapter 333 Zhang Lingzi confronts Su Qingmei. Gongbai painting is extremely time-consuming. After Qianyaya made up her mind, She made sure not to be disturbed by the looks from the audience, and decisively put pen to paper on the paper. Shen Heshen has also begun to mix the colors he wants, with a focused and serious expression. In this way, Zhang Lingzi, standing motionless between the two of them while wearing VR glasses, seemed a little special. The audience waited patiently for a moment, and saw other people around them writing one after another, and finally couldn't help but whisper. "What is Zhang Lingzi doing? Are you going to wait for an hour before writing? The previous trick will not be new. It's not like I don't know what to draw, it's the third choice, there are obviously simpler ones, so I have to choose the mountains and rivers with the most magnificent scene. Let's look forward to amateur guests. Amateurs are still not as good as professionals." The drawing paper is laid flat on the table, and the audience can only see the movements of the guests at the beginning. It wasn't until the aerial camera was in place that everyone saw the drawings in front of the guests on the big screen. I saw that some had been painted with color, some had smooth lines drawn, and one was completely blank. At this time, even those who were initially attracted by the appearance looked away impatiently. They spent a lot of effort to get tickets to the auditorium, not just to watch a wooden beauty wearing VR glasses on the stage in a daze. At the commentator's seat, Su Qingmei raised her hand to cover her chest and stood up gracefully. Others heard the movement and looked over. We are all seniors in the field of calligraphy and painting, but I am the only one standing on the threshold with half a foot. Su Qingmei smiled at the people who looked over. While everyone's creation has just begun, I will go to Taiwan first. Let's see how everyone is doing. There is nothing wrong with this. After all, the host also said before that the commentator can transform into an invigilator at any time to inspect the creation and status of the guests. With this movement, someone in the audience immediately noticed Su Qingmei's movements. Su Yinghao walked to the stage. The first invigilator made a grand appearance. Su Yinghao had been sitting on the table before and didn't pay attention. This dress is so gorgeous and bold, but I personally think the one on Zhang Lingzi looks better. But I don't think it goes well with today's show if actress Su is wearing such a dress. It doesn't matter whether she matches or not, she's just beautiful. By the way, does Queen Su know how to draw? She should know something about it. But when the program team invited her, they probably valued her influence more. Actress Su has not participated in many variety shows. When the show is broadcast, fans of actress Su will definitely come to support her. Others have high status in the world of calligraphy and painting, but their combined fans are only a fraction of those of Queen Su. Speaking of this, I would also like to know if Mr. Shen has an account. I am Yango, and I want to follow him now. I just searched it and found nothing. Pity. The topic in the corner just unknowingly went sideways. Su Qingmei's target was Zhang Lingzi from the beginning, but she couldn't let anyone see that she was specifically targeting her, so she started with Lu Sen, who was ranked first. Lu Sen was seriously polishing his pen when suddenly a strong fragrance came over him. He couldn't help opening his mouth and sneezed loudly. Su Qingmei, who was almost sprayed with saliva. Li Wangxuan, who had been suffering from the smell of perfume for the past 2 days, saw Su Qingmei's stiff expression, covered her mouth and coughed lightly. She hoped that Su Qingmei could stay on stage for a little longer, so that her nose would suffer less. Su Qingmei didn't even see what was drawn on the drawing paper in front of Lu. Senator Su Qingmei saw that this girl was still sneezing, and quickly moved to Qianya's side. Although Qianya is lively and active in daily life and likes to collect signatures, she is also really focused when she is focused. Su Qingmei looked at the hand she was drawing the line with, and even though she was standing next to her, she didn't pause or tremble at all. Not even the slightest pause to think about what he meant. Puckered her lips and stood there symbolically for a few seconds. Su Qingmei turned her head and looked at Zhang Lingzi, who was still wearing VR glasses and watching endlessly. There was a dark light in her eyes, and she walked over with Hanchang Jiao under her feet. At the moment she stopped and stood still, Zhang Lingzi also happened to raise her hand and press the pause button of the VR glasses. Taking off his glasses, he turned around and looked over. This glance was indifferent, as if he already knew he would come. Successfully made Su Qingmei swallow back what she was about to say. She flipped up her hair and said, I see that everyone else has already started writing. Miss Zhang hasn't started writing yet, so she hasn't conceived it yet, okay. A voice with a hint of doubt reached the ears of everyone in the recording hall through the microphone. Li Wangsuan's eyebrows that had just relaxed were wrinkled again. The host just said that he didn't say whether the commentator can make a sound to disturb the guest's creation during the invigilation. That's not true. But it should also be clear that you cannot be disturbed when creating, especially when you are still in the process of conceiving. Especially Su Qingmei's words, which may seem okay at first glance, but now you are telling the guests that others are making faster progress than you in front of everyone. Isn't this creating anxiety? I just hope that girl Xiao Zhang was not affected by Su Qingmei's words. The most taboo thing about painting is being impatient and impatient. Shen Yunqing's eyes were cold. He believed that His Majesty would not be affected by a mere Su Qingmei, but this person always did such little things, which was annoying. Soon, Hezu, who was busy with several jobs at the same time, received a message from his boss asking, "How is the investigation going?" It seemed like it was just a casual question, but Hezu's heart was tight. He could see a hint of impatience in it. I don't know what Su Qingmei did during the recording of the program that made her boss unhappy, so the pressure was put on him. After scolding the woman in his mind, he replied quickly, "Don't worry, boss, we already have a clue." "Well, as soon as possible." "Good boss." Zhang Lingzi didn't know that Shen Yunqing was investigating Su Qingmei. She looked at the provocative eyes in front of her with their backs to the camera. She resisted the urge to reach out and slap the person aside, and suddenly raised her hand to signal to the person in charge who was standing on the edge of the stage. "People." At this time, everyone was stunned by her actions, including the host. "Does Zhang Lingzi have something to tell me?" "Yes, I have a question. Can the reviewer interfere with the guest's creation at will during the tour?" Hearing the sound, Shen Yunqing's expression softened. Su Qingmei's smiling face was obviously stiff. The auditorium immediately roared with a boom. "I'm going to be tough. I really didn't expect Zhang Lingzi to do this. I thought she wasn't ready to come back or had already thought about it, but she just went to the host to question Queen Su's actions. Speaking of which, isn't this a bit disrespectful to our seniors? Her status in the entertainment industry is far inferior to that of Queen Su, and she actually dares to directly offend Queen Su in front of so many people. But this is on a show, and everyone is working creating. It's really not good for you to interrupt me suddenly. If you happen to have inspiration and are suddenly interrupted, who does it belong to?" If Zhang Lingzi hadn't asked this just now, I really didn't feel that the timing of Su Yinghao's question was indeed a bit wrong. Hearing what you say, I also. Suddenly I feel a little sympathy for Zhang Lingzi. The scene I originally chose was not easy to draw, and now I'm so delayed. If the painting at the back is not good enough, I won't spray it too much. Is it a lighting problem? I feel like Queen Su's face looks a little dark. This shouldn't feel like it. The host raised the microphone and was thinking about how to answer, when he met the look of Su Qingmei, who was standing next to Zhang Lingzi. The warning should not be too obvious. It was obviously asking her to give a positive answer, and she was immediately moved. Difficult. Fortunately, she was soon rescued by a clear voice coming from the reviewer's seat. "Of course not, there is no doubt about it. Ms. Su, you have exceeded the rules." End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 334. Chapter 334, Really Dare, a bit like a couple pretending. The four guests at the back were naturally unable to continue patrolling. Su Qingmei held up her chest and forced herself to smile, so that her steps back did not look so embarrassing. Zhang Lingzi put down her VR glasses, and after she sat back in her seat, she used her actions to tell her the answer to the question just now. Jing Hui silently told himself to focus, but he still couldn't help but glance in Su Qingmei's direction while writing. After getting along with her for so many days, he could barely understand some of Su Qingmei's micro-expressions. Even though this man is still smiling, he is probably extremely angry in his heart. When he looked back, he glanced in Zhang Lingzi's direction. Even at this moment, he was still a little unbelievable. Zhang Lingzi, how dare she? This is just a heritage variety show, and their main business is acting. How dare you offend Su Qingmei, who is already a household name in China and is now going global? Aren't you afraid that you will be restricted in the entertainment industry in the future, or even have no scenes to film under Su Qingmei's instructions? Jing Hui quickly retracted his thoughts until he accidentally dropped an extra drop of paint on his hand, causing the resulting color to be much darker than expected. It's none of his business to be left or right. However, the quiet discussion in the audience did not stop. After all, this show is not as lively as other shows. Although you can enjoy the live creation of young painters who have never been seen in the past, except for the vague light music, the scene is really a bit boring. But now everyone is no longer discussing Zhang Lingzi's tough fight as Queen Su, but the focus of discussion is Shen Yunqing's MS Su. This is such a title for a veteran coder. I never thought that the beautiful Queen Su would be called MS Su. One day I immediately felt like a middle-aged woman. But it's not surprising to hear it from Mr. Shen. I just thought about it. Mr. Shen called Su Yinghao like the rest of us. It's a bit awkward. Then you can call me Miss Su, right? MS Su makes people look a lot older. Have you forgotten that although Queen Su looks very young, she is still in her 30s and early 40s? Ordinary people at this age have children who have gone to school. I don't know if other people would be happy to be called ma'am, but I think Queen Su would definitely not be too happy. Su Qingmei's mood at the moment is indeed not bright, it can even be said to be cloudy. Although Shen Yunqing had called her MS Su before, he did so when there were not many people around. No one except her would care about it. But this time she was called MS Su in full public view. It is conceivable that many people would think that she was not too young. Age is a negative factor for a woman, especially her. Originally, I planned to keep a high profile, but now I have to keep a low profile. Zhang Lingzi, very good. Li Wangxuan was about to speak just now, but Shen Yunqing beat her to it. She looked at this person, and then at the figure on the stage who didn't seem to be affected at all, and couldn't help but smile like an ant at the corner of her mouth. These two young people really look more and more like each other. After Su Qingmei, two more commentators came to the stage to patrol the venue. But he just walked around in silence and then went back. He deliberately lowered his voice while walking, keeping in mind the principle of not affecting the guests. After all, the lessons from the past are right in front of us. Li Wangxuan and Zhang Nashuan had the highest qualifications and the most respected positions, so they naturally rank second to last and first to last in the tour. Therefore, when the second half came after an hour, Shen Yunqing stood up and left his seat. To put it bluntly, painting is a rather boring process if you just watch it. Even if 7 people are creating at the same time, alternating back and forth, there will be times of aesthetic fatigue. Until they saw the black figure who had been sitting quietly on the stage, everyone couldn't help but feel shocked. Finally, it's time for this person to take the stage. If we had such an invigilator in the exam room during the exam, I would definitely not object to him standing behind me and watching me do the questions. Well, who makes you a top student? I can't do that. You're so good looking. Even if your legs are weak. Shen Yunqing walked quietly from behind the guests. When passing by Lucen and Qianyaya, I even just glanced at the drawing paper in front of them and didn't stop any longer. It wasn't until he reached between Zhang Lingzi and Shen Heshan that he paused. Everyone's eyes followed his figure, first moving, then pausing. Shen Heshen's hand on the brush tightened. The footsteps behind him were almost negligible, but the sight from behind made him uncontrollably nervous. Fortunately, that line of sight only stayed for a few seconds and then moved away, making him couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As a result, this breath followed the wheat pin to the collar and spread directly throughout the entire audience. Everyone. Haha, let's call this kid Shen Heshen. Is the sense of oppression brought by Mr. Shen so strong? Look at how nervous the kid is. Am I dazzled? Why do I feel that the cheek contours of Shen Heshen and Mr. Shen are somewhat similar? Both of them have the surname Shen, so my imagination is a little out of control. Brother, uncle and nephew, anyway, they can't be father and son. When I introduced him before, the information did not mention Mr. Shen's age. Maybe he is too well maintained and his real age is already quite a lot. Based on my many years of experience as a senior beautician, Mr. Shen is definitely no more than 30 years old, around 25, so there is no way he would have such an old son. Okay, then I'll feel relieved. What are you worried about? Even if she is unmarried, is this what you can imagine? I'm relieved that there is really no one who is worthy of this person. Qian Yuchen listened to the low-pitched discussion of the young people sitting next to him and couldn't help but shake his head in amusement. She is indeed ignorant and fearless, at least she does not dare to say such bold words. However, she was not expecting Mr. Shen to be on such a program. I wonder if the students in their school who have listened to Mr. Shen's lectures would regret not actively grabbing tickets to come and pay homage to their idol if they knew that this person was also present. She has to keep her mouth shut when she goes back, otherwise she will definitely attract a lot of hatred. Qian Yihan made his decision silently. Zhang Lingzi could feel that Shen Yunqing was standing behind her, looking at the half-painted painting in front of her. The painting already shows the mist of flowing clouds and the vast mountains. After finishing one stroke, she turned her head slightly and glanced at this person while she was washing the pen. Others don't know it, but she knows very well that the divine painter who was mentioned in several questions in the quiz game is now playing the role of the invigilator. Looking at you asking, how is it? Shen Yunqing nodded invisibly and answered silently, very good. The eye contact only lasted a moment. After washing and drying the brush, Zhang Lingzi looked back and continued to write confidently. Although she likes to draw all kinds of cute little animals, she is also good at landscape painting, especially since she has just been recognized by the master painter. In the audience, someone looked at Shen Yunqing, who had been standing there for a while. He took off his long-sighted glasses, looked at them carefully and put them on again. Hearing that his companions were still guessing whether the two Shens were related, they hesitated. Opening. What, does anyone think that the clothes worn by Mr. Shen and Zhang Lingzi look a bit like couples' clothes? End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 335. Chapter 335. See through the little mind, who is the best? Is one black and one white considered a couple's outfit these days? Then my buddy and I bought the same black and white short-sleeved shirt. Will it be misunderstood if we go together? We are pure. The young man who spoke grabbed his body. The man in black short sleeves had a frightened look on his face. Unfortunately, Qian Yishan happened to be sitting next to him and heard these words. She is so young at this age that an old aunt like her really doesn't know what to say. No, the contrast between black and white is correct. The main reason is that some of the elements on the clothes of these two people are similar. Where are you? How can you see clearly from so far away? I forgot, you are farsighted. If you don't look, tell me what the similarities are. Qian Yuchen couldn't help but adjust the glasses on the bridge of her nose, but she was short-sighted, so she could see things very close, but now it was so far away, well, she couldn't see clearly either. Had no choice but to up my ears quietly. There are dragons and beasts embroidered with silver red silk thread on Zhang Lingzi's dress. If I read it correctly, The cuffs and collar of Mr. Shen's dress should be phoenix feather patterns. The detailed explanation of ancient costumes that I minored in last semester introduced these two embroidery samples. It is decomposed from the same embroidery pattern, this is one of them. Secondly, there are the decorations on the clothes. The ring-shaped jade bracelet above the light green tassel on Zhang Lingzi's body and the buttons on the collar of Mr. Shen's jacket are very similar in color and texture. I guess they are made of the same piece. Stone. Maybe there are subtle similarities, but I can't see it. After finishing such a plausible analysis, the few people around who heard it were a little silent. No way. No way. Qian Yihan also replied silently in his heart, no way. If it were true, those little girls in their school who admire Mr. Shen so much would not be able to cry to death. They still can't see clearly, and they can't just listen to one person's words. But this slight suspicion was still quietly buried in the hearts of a few people. Some people in the audience have already noticed that something is wrong. The real person is standing next to him, no more than 1 meter away. How could Zhang Lingzi not see it? However, after the previous two discoveries, this time on a stage full of cameras, she just gave someone a meaningful look and silently revealed, I have seen through your little mind. Shen Yunqing raised her eyebrows, pursed her lips in a rare and uncomfortable manner, turned around and continued walking forward silently. On the other side of Shen and Chen is Suyi. This girl was also so focused that she didn't even notice anyone coming behind her. Shen Yunqing was a little far away from her, just enough to see the painting under her hand clearly. But after seeing what she drew, he couldn't help but stop. The sky and the earth are dark, miserable, windy, and rainy. In such a harsh environment, the sky and the earth should be silent, but there is a figure walking alone in the rain. No, it's two ways. Although there are only a few strokes, they are the finishing touch in the painting. Without the person on his back, he would not have the courage to walk alone. It's just that he didn't expect that this girl Su actually painted this scene. I don't know if the other party will be willing to give up love at that time. Without stopping too much, Shen Yunqing, after seeing Lin You's works, stopped behind Jing Huai and looked at his paintings with the same calm expression as he did with the others in front of him. Su Qingmei has been paying attention to Shen Yunqing's every move. Except for staying at Zhang Lingzi's side for a few seconds, this person stayed behind everyone as if holding a stopwatch, and they all stayed for the same amount of time. She originally thought that Shen Yunqing would turn around and come back when he got behind Jing Huai, but she didn't expect that this man actually stopped. Don't you care about the scandal between Jing Huai and Zhang Lingzi? Su Qingmei was really confused now. God knows that only Jing Huai himself can deeply understand the pain he is feeling at this moment. The distance between the person standing behind him was actually not that short, and even if he stretched out his hand, he would never be able to hit him, but he couldn't ignore the gaze that rested on the painting under his hand. The sense of pressure that spread over him for no reason even made his mind go blank for a moment, and his hands were shaking unnaturally, let alone keeping calm to write. Resisting the urge to turn around and tell the man to go away, Jing Huai could only pause painting, delaying time by washing his brushes, while silently praying that the gaze from behind him would quickly move away. After Shen Yunqing took one look at the waterfall described by Jing Huai, he no longer had the urge to take a second look. But he realized that not only was this man's painting skills average, but his psychological quality was also not very good, so he left in no hurry. So in Su Qingmei's eyes, everyone is treated equally, but in fact it's just someone who feels unhappy when he thinks about the hot topics, and is silently venting his anger. Asterisk. The audience couldn't tell from Shen Yunqing's face who painted the best and who was the worst, and they couldn't tell from the faces of Li Wangxuan and Zhang Nashuan who were touring next. You can only judge based on your own aesthetic ability. Just in time, the big screen on the stage flashed a line of words as if it could guess what everyone was thinking. The creation is coming to an end, which guest's work is the best in your mind? Let me nominate Jianyai. Although her work is the smallest among the 7 works, it is so delicate and beautiful that I, a girl, really can't resist it. Lu Sen is worthy of his family background, and this painting of wind blowing through the bamboo forest should be comparable to the ancestors of the Lu family. On the contrary, I prefer the back view of the young lady named Suyi. On a rainy night when I saw this painting, I was thinking, if someone is willing to carry me through this miserable rainy night, then it would be a good idea to marry him. Shen Heshan actually painted the fairy mountain on the sea. That I guess just for this reason, I will vote for him. Lin Yo's End of the World. Although this person has been accused of plagiarism, this work is really heartbreaking. I have also experienced the feeling of waiting for a ray of light in the vast darkness. Now I really doubt that he was accused of plagiarism in the first place. The plagiarism was framed, and the person who can draw this picture is unlikely to commit plagiarism. Oh my God, you are done talking. I nominate Zhang Lingzi. First of all, I am not a fan of hers, but I may be in the future. I didn't have much expectations for her. After all, she is an actor and not as good as other majors in painting. But this picture of her mountains and rivers really amazed me. Well, no one nominated Jing Huai. I think the waterfall he painted is quite good. Well, I can't go on, I just feel a little pitiful that no one mentioned him. Qian Yuchen listened to the people sitting around expressing their opinions, while watching several paintings flashing alternately on the screen intently. From her point of view, honestly speaking, even if she has a natural filter for her niece, she cannot say that the flowers painted by her niece are the best among them. I can only say that the level of those who can be selected for this program is not low. Well, that Jing Huai is a bit of an exception. Touching the scoring device that was just handed to him, Qian Yishan silently apologized to his niece in his heart. She is very fair in this professional field and cannot be biased. Boom. A long bell rang. Several people put down their pens one after another. Qian Yaya put down the coloring brush at the last second before the bell disappeared, and took a long breath. Almost couldn't finish it. He raised his head to look at the pleased look from his aunt on the stage and grinned. Qian Yihan. There are too many great people, so she can only wish her niece good luck, as long as her ranking is not too bad. As the 7 screens were moved onto the stage, the 7 complete works were finally presented in front of everyone present. They are lined up in different styles, which is really a visual feast. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 336. Chapter 336. I plan to send you an avalanche. The host looked at the commentator seat and raised his hand. I would like to invite some commentator teachers. Li Wangxuan stood up and first made a gesture of invitation to her teacher. Zhang Nashuan took the lead and chatted with the students while turning on the microphone on his body. Which one do you think is the best? Li Wangxuan couldn't help but laugh when she heard this. Teacher, I'm sure this isn't asking questions knowingly. Ha ha ha. There was only a burst of hearty laughter from the audience. They could only tell that Mr. Zhang was very happy, and it was not because he was made happy by any of the works. Although Su Qingmei was still a bit worried about Shen Yunqing's words of "Ms. Will you deliberately favor someone because of an acquaintance?" She asked this specifically to make Shen Yunqing have some scruples. Isn't it a good relationship? Putting it here would be a weakness. Shen Yunqing didn't want to pay attention to her at first, but when he heard this, his eyebrows turned cold and he said, "This is also for Ms. Su." Su Qingmei was confused. What? Aren't there some acquaintances of Ms. Su on this stage? Su Qingmei was stunned for a moment at first. When she came back to her senses, she saw a pair of eyes with clear mockery, and her face suddenly turned pale. You're stupid. Before the sophistry was uttered, the person in front of him turned around and walked towards the stage without hesitation. By the time Su Qingmei recovered her mood, she had already fallen to the last one. Whether it was intentional or not, she stood at the farthest position from Jinghui. As a result, when I looked up, I saw Zhang Lingzi's work hanging on the screen in front of me, and my face couldn't help but become distorted for a moment. Even though she didn't know how to paint, she had to admit that this painting was so comfortable that it made her whole body uncomfortable. Unfortunately, the host seemed to be haunted at this moment. Then let's comment on the paintings of the guests one by one according to the order in which the previous commentators and teachers came to the stage. Looking at the microphone that had been handed to her, Su Qingmei smiled reluctantly and reached out to take it. The first one is Zhang Lingzi's work, and it's called Mountains and Rivers. Shen Yunqing, Your Majesty's choice of name should be a solid one. Su Qingmei put on a posture of serious appreciation and forced herself to look at the painting in front of her. As she looked at it, she felt a bit of uncontrollable anger in her heart. Well, to be honest, I don't think this painting is very good sample. At first, Su Qingmei was a little surprised that she actually said the words that she was just disparaging in her heart, but after she said it, she couldn't stop, and she gradually became less and less scrupulous. She didn't even notice that the stage and the audience had completely quieted down at some point, and that the host was trying to stop her with his eyes. Zhang Nashuan and Li Wangsuan had expressionless faces. Shen Yunqing's gaze towards Su Qingmei made Shen Heshan, who had accidentally glanced at it, couldn't help but tremble. Others, including the guests on the stage, looked at a loss at this moment. Is the person commenting on this really a painting by Zhang Lingzi? Jinghui was deeply touched. He really felt that Su Qingmei might be crazy. He has never seen anyone more duplicitous than Su Qingmei. Just as cruel and ruthless as one is in private, one is sanctimonious on the surface. When the relationship was good, he heard with his own ears that Su Qingmei ordered her assistant to sell a young actor in the crew who had unintentionally offended her at a high price, and then turned around and pretended to be kind to the other person's sister under his own account. Even if he couldn't stand Zhang Lingzi anymore, he thought that this person would only say a few words to express his feelings. Who would have expected that such an output would suddenly come out, as if he didn't even think about it in his mind? Is this a sudden drop in IQ? However, the incredible looks from the crowd did not affect Su Qingmei's ability to speak freely. When she finally finished her comments, she turned to face the various gazes of others, and paused while holding the microphone. Why are you all looking at me? Everyone. Why do you think you have no idea? Jinghui was so tired that he didn't want to say anything. He now really doubted whether Su Qingmei had taken some truth pills before commenting on Zhang Lingzi's paintings. The host was forcing a smile at this moment. Now let's ask Teacher Su to comment on the second work. When she said these words, she felt anxious in her heart, fearing that this person would make another unscrupulous attack just like before. Fortunately, although I didn't find anything substantively useful in this review, it was still considered a compliment. Waiting for the second, third, now there was a contrast, and everyone present could see that Su Qingmei was targeting Zhang Lingzi. Could it be that Zhang Lingzi was taking revenge for making her unable to step down? But is it too cautious to take revenge on critical works? Many people couldn't help but turn their attention to Zhang Lingzi. When I saw her calm face, even with a faint smile, standing so calmly on the stage, I couldn't help but feel a little more admiration. If it were you, the work you had worked so hard to draw was criticized as useless in front of everyone. They really couldn't be so calm. They might have grabbed the microphone and opened their mouths to fight back before they had finished listening. I remember that people on the internet have always said that Zhang Lingzi has a bad temper. This is not a good word, so, does it mean that someone like me, who can't stand being criticized without thinking at all, is manic? I believed what was said on the internet before, which caused me to misunderstand the young lady for so long. Unscrupulous netizens misunderstood me. Facts tell us that rumors cannot be trusted at all. I would like to say that I am a bit broken about Su Yinghao's filter. Hey, who says it's not the case? I really didn't expect that actress Su would comment like this. Speaking of which, people on the internet say that actress Su is approachable. Could it be that they were all deliberately created in the press release? It's not impossible, it's scary to think about it. Zhang Lingzi only felt warmth in her hands. She lowered her head and saw two hands holding them. One hand was a little calloused, and the other was white and tender. He raised his eyes and met Su Yi and Qian Yi's comforting and slightly worried eyes, and couldn't help but laugh. Although Su Qingmei's input just now surprised her a little, it was not particularly surprising. No matter how good this person may be on the surface, she could tell from the first moment she saw Su Qingmei that he was not a good-tempered person at all. She had embarrassed Su Qingmei on the stage before, and then 2 hours passed. During these 2 hours, Su Qingmei could only hold back her anger and couldn't find a chance to vent. As we all know, anger builds up. After seeing her paintings, I may have reached a critical point. At this moment, she didn't know that Shen Yunqing also helped her stimulate Su Qingmei when she first came to power. With the two sides superimposed like this, the anger simply rushed to the brain and went to the head. Zhang Lingzi shook her head gently at the two of them, indicating that nothing happened to her. She didn't pay attention to such comments that were just to vent her anger. On the contrary, she was quite satisfied with Su Qingmei's performance just now. She enjoys it when she is trying to undermine herself in front of so many people. As a sentence I accidentally saw some time ago, when an avalanche occurs, no snowflake is innocent. So what if the fan base is huge? The seeds of collapse have already been born. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 337. Chapter 337 The Atmosphere. After Su Qingmei, a commentator named Chen Chong, who finally has a name, stepped forward. He did not follow the order of Su Qingmei's comments, but the other way around. Until the end, I stood in front of Zhang Lingzi's work and admired it carefully for a moment. When I was about to comment, I subconsciously glanced in the direction of Su Qingmei. What he is going to say next may offend the big star. After retracting his gaze, he composed himself. This mountain and river picture can be classified as the best in my opinion. Although everyone present was listening to his comments carefully, their eyes could not help but fall on the face of Su Qingmei, who had just rejected mountains and rivers. Surrounded by all kinds of looks from all directions, Su Qingmei still smiled lightly, seemingly not caring at all that someone gave a completely different evaluation than her. But only she knows what she is thinking. Then the third reviewer Linju, another reviewer who finally has a name, also gave mountains and rivers pictures a good evaluation. Su Qingmei once again caught a glance. The nails have dug into the palms of the hands, the heartbeat is speeding up, and a bit of annoyance has begun to spread in the bottom of my heart. She was sure that these two reviewers had no special friendship with Zhang Lingzi, but now they gave Zhang Lingzi excellent evaluations regardless of her face. Then there was only one explanation, an explanation that she did not want to admit in any case. When Shen Yunqing picked up the phone, everyone finally looked away from Su Qingmei. But before she could relax, she heard a comment that made her fall into the abyss. Shen Yunqing walked directly to the mountains and rivers and made the comment he had wanted to say before: the painting is grand and elegant, and the ink is elegant. Compared with the previous three people's comments, the comments could not be shorter, but everyone present could easily tell that although there were only 8 words this time, the evaluation was quite high. Especially the deep appreciation and love for mountains and rivers in his words, which can be said to be completely undisguised. Can I say that this is the first time I have captured Mr. Shen's emotions? I thought this had no intense emotions at all. It seems that I like this work very much. It just so happens that I also like mountains and rivers, Mr. Shen and I have the same aesthetic taste. Is there anyone else who disagrees? No one thinks Zhang Lingzi's painting is bad, except for Queen Su. By the way, I just noticed that Queen Su didn't seem to be steady, and she was shaking on the spot. Either you are dazzled, or Su Yinghao is starting to panic. Now there are 3 people who have denied her, and Mr. Li and Mr. Zhang behind are probably no exception. Su Qingmei really couldn't help but feel dazed for a moment. In addition, she knew that there was an audience at the scene today and the reviewer would not be sitting in her seat all the time, so she simply changed into a pair of beautiful henshin high heels. Those pairs were so high that they couldn't remain stable for a while. Fortunately, she reacted quickly on the spot, so she didn't fall down directly. She just silently prayed in her heart that the embarrassment in those few seconds was not captured by the audience and the camera. After standing firm, she looked uncontrollably at the figure walking towards another work. She thought that her words when she came on stage would have some influence on this person. But now it turns out that the other party didn't take her words at all. No matter what it was, she couldn't accept it. Shen Yunqing stood in front of Su Yi's back on a rainy night and reached out to brush his shoulders, as if brushing away some disgusting dirt. Then he looked at the painting and commented, "The brushwork is light and the words are delicate." Su Yi's nervous expression suddenly relaxed, because the inspiration for this painting may be that the other guests valued the comments of Mr. Li and Mr. Zhang more, but she valued the comments of Mr. Shen more. Zhang Lingzi didn't know what Su Yi painted before. Although she could look back at the big screen while painting, she still preferred to finish what she painted without any distractions and then focus on other things. When the work was completed and presented in front of everyone, she could tell at a glance that the 2 back figures in Su Yi's painting were Shen Yunqing and her. Although it was not based on yesterday's rainy night with heavy traffic as the background, it was more like the rain in her dream last night. Between heaven and earth, even though the wind and rain were blowing around her, she never walked alone. When the program was over, she planned to ask Su Yi if he would sell the painting to her. Just like what Shen Yunqing said just now, the words of love are delicate and she likes them very much. Shen Heshen waited nervously until his cousin stood in front of his work. Seeing his cousin raise the microphone in his hand, he couldn't help but hold the arm of Lu Sen who was standing next to him, subconsciously exerting a little force. "Hiss, what are you doing?" "Sorry, I'm a little nervous." It's not time for Mr. Li and the old man to comment yet. Now this is even more stressful. This is not just a review of guest works, but also a check on the learning results of our own students. Luxon. Such a sudden move made him become nervous in advance. Fortunately, Shen Yunqing was quite satisfied with the learning results of his cheap disciple. With the same evaluation, Shen Heshen breathed a sigh of relief and let go of Lu Sen's arm. "God bless, I passed the test." Lu Sen, those who don't know may think that this program is still an art test for student Shen. After reviewing the works of Qianyaya, Lin Yo, and Lu Sen, Shen Yunqing stood in front of Jing Huai's works. It is estimated that he stood behind Jing Huai for a few seconds in the middle of the creation, which caused the other person's state to become unstable. Part of the work in front of him was barely visible, while other parts were completely unreadable, making it difficult to comment on it. This picture. Everyone who had been used to hearing 8-character evaluations suddenly perked up their ears when they suddenly heard that it was changed to 3 characters this time. Then I heard Mr. Shen say in a tone that showed no trace of disgust, "I won't comment." He really can't comment on such a bad painting, so don't force yourself. Everyone. Jing Huai, who was treated specially. He is not as good at managing his expressions as Su Qingmei. At this moment, he is facing a little strange look from the people who are looking at him, and his face is a little blue. Fortunately, he still wore a mask on half of his face, which could barely cover it up. The host opened his mouth. He wanted to remind him that a sentence should be evaluated, even if it was only 4 words. But before he could say anything, Mr. Shen had already put down the microphone in his hand, so he had to swallow the words again. Go back. Forget it, that's it, there are two more important commentators behind the left and right. If it weren't for the fact that the program itself had its own rules, Li Wangsuan would have wanted to retaliate as early as when Su Qingmei commented on Zhang Lingzi's work. It was finally her turn to comment. Mr. Li couldn't hold it in for a long time. He took the microphone and spoke freely. I don't agree with Xiao Su's comment on mountains and rivers just now. I think this painting can be done in a short time. I can't draw it within 2 hours, and I can't draw the momentum of this painting. Even this mountain and river picture doesn't feel very good, so there should be nothing in this world that can make you feel excellent, Xiao Su. Everyone. The audience was shocked at first, and then surprised again. The old lady who talks quickly is so cute. I was right, I wanted to refute Su Yinghao's words like this before. You old lady, you are so rude. You have to address me as Mr. Li. This is the mainstay of our calligraphy and painting association. This is the first time I have seen Queen Su being criticized in public on a show, and she had to stand at attention and endure it. The ticket price is really worth it. It's a pity that I can't record without a mobile phone, and I don't know if this part will be cut off when the program is broadcast. After all, it will affect the image of Queen Su too much. Then she shouldn't have said those words that deliberately disparaged Zhang Lingzi's work before she was really digging her own grave. But this is a variety show on Taiwanese television, and she shouldn't be used to cutting it as she pleases. Why are you worried about this now? We will know when the show airs, but I still agree not to cut it, haha, so that not only us, but also the audience can see Su Yinghao's face-changing stunt. Jing Huai adjusted the mask on his face and felt a little happy in his heart when he saw Su Qingmei's expression of embarrassment when she couldn't control herself. No one is a masochist. He could endure Su Qingmei's bad temper behind others because he wanted something. Since Su Qingmei wants to draw a clear line with him now, she will definitely treat him as a stranger and will no longer help him in his career. Seeing Su Qingmei deflated in public, I have to say that I really like it. However, this joy did not last long, because he soon heard Li Wangsuan's next words. In my opinion, the waterfall you gave Jing Huai in your evaluation, Xiao Su, is pretty much the same. Jing Huai. He was stabbed while he was lying down? The audience was completely bursting with laughter. Let me tell you about Jing Huai's inner thoughts at this moment. I am provoking someone. Speaking of which, Mr. Li's words may be a bit rude, but Jing Huai's waterfall looks fine on its own, but when compared together, it does seem a bit awkward. The thing I'm most confused about today is, how did this Jingda star get selected for this show with his painting skills? Is there really any inside story? End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 338. After reviewing Zhang Lingzi's works, and using Su Qingmei's comments to summarize her review of Jing Huai, Li Wangsuan stood quietly for a moment in front of Su Yi's back on a rainy night. After a long time, he looked at the author standing next to the painting and asked softly, "Girl, is the teacher who teaches you painting named Jian Sheng?" Jian Sheng, Su Yi subconsciously repeated the name, pursed his lips without nodding or shaking his head. I don't know the teacher's name, I only know his surname is Jian. That should be him, Li Wangsuan said as she couldn't help but turn her head to glance in the direction of the teacher not far away, then turned back and spoke softly, "Your paintings are in the same vein as him. The inspiration enters the painting, and the strokes are astounding. That's how we described him originally. From the first time I saw the somewhat blurry electronic version of the work, to yesterday when I saw this girl copying the only work from Jian Sheng's rolling life stored in the teacher's museum, to today's work back on a rainy night, she finally confirmed that this girl's teacher was her young junior brother, Jian Sheng, who was amazingly talented, but due to some changes, he never saw the teacher again. She guessed that the teacher should have guessed it earlier than she did. This disciple who met his junior brother yesterday didn't know what his teacher was feeling at that time. Although Suyi is shy, at this moment he looked directly into the teacher's eyes. "Mr. Li, you." "Good boy," Li Wangsuan interrupted her, "we'll talk about it after recording the show. The main reason is that it is not good to talk about my junior brother in front of the teacher, because no matter what I say, it will expose the teacher's wounds. I am very pleased that my junior brother has received a disciple with amazing talent. I thought he would never receive a disciple who can inherit his lineage in this life. In this painting back on a rainy night, I can see that you have already junior brother should be very happy to be out of the army." "Well, teacher Jian is gone." Seeing that Li Wangsuan was stunned, Suyi realized that there was a mistake in what he said, and quickly waved his hand to correct it. "I didn't mean that. He left me a letter saying that he was leaving, and then disappeared." Li Wangsuan touched the head of the little girl in front of her, who was a little disappointed. "You have already learned what he wants to teach you. He chose to leave because he felt that he had nothing to teach you." The audience members who had listened to this conversation also started talking in low voices at this moment. "Who is Jian Sheng?" According to Mr. Li, this person is Mr. Li's younger brother and guest Suyi's master. As we all know, Mr. Li is Mr. Zhang's student, so this Jian Sheng should also be Mr. Zhang's disciple. But I have never heard of such a person in the world of calligraphy and painting. The person who said it was okay, but after listening to this analysis, the eyes of those who listened to this analysis have turned into mosquito coils. Wait a minute, let me wipe it out. Jian Sheng, Jian Yihan was also thinking about this name. He felt it was vaguely familiar, but couldn't remember it for a while. Where have you heard it before? If she really couldn't remember it, she decided to go back and ask her colleagues and seniors at the Academy of Fine Arts. She restrained herself because she thought of her junior brother's complicated emotions, so Li Wangsuan walked to Shen Heshen's works. After Ding Ding looked at it for a while, she didn't rush to speak. Instead, she went back to Zhang Lingzi's work and walked around it before coming back. Everyone was immediately confused by her actions. By the way, the works of Shen Heshen and Zhang Lingzi are both ink and landscape paintings. Is Mr. Li trying to compare who is better at painting between the two? Obviously Zhang Lingzi is more skilled, but I feel that this is not what Mr. Li is looking at. What were you doing just now? I suggest you ask Mr. Li himself. If I dare, why should I guess? Zhang Lingzi noticed Li Wangsuan's behavior and guessed a possibility. In her previous life, after she knew that the divine painter Siem Weun was her prime minister, she simply asked this man to be her calligraphy and painting teacher for a while. Especially in the ink and wash landscape that this man was good at, there were some shadows of him in her works. And Shen Heshen's calligraphy and painting were taught by Shen Yunqing. This led to the fact that she and Shen Heshen in this era had a common teacher even though they were thousands of years apart. I can only say that the encounters in this world are really wonderful. Most people would never imagine such a bizarre situation. She guessed that Mr. Li must have noticed a faint similarity between her and Shen Heshen's works, but she was not sure. Li Wangsuan was really not sure. When copying yesterday's works, although Zhang Lingzi and Shen Heshen were both copying blue waves and everything, Shen Heshen was copying honestly, but Zhang Lingzi made her directly suspect that he was copying the original blue waves and everything by Siem Weun. The two she didn't see anything even if she put a piece of it. But now that I am creating on my own, some traces of a similar feeling are apparent. But the two people didn't seem to know each other at first. The strangeness couldn't be acted out and couldn't fool her eyes, so, was it really just a simple similarity? Seeing that the Mr. Li in front of him had not yet commented on his work, Shen Heshen became a little more nervous and uneasy. "Mr. Li, is there anything wrong with my painting?" "That shouldn't be the case, my cousin praised him just now." "Although the praise is very subtle, it is still a boast." "That's not true," her thoughts were interrupted. Li Wangsuan looked at the young man's anxious eyes, smiled and comforted her. although your painting is still a bit immature, it has a spiritual energy. If you paint well, you will definitely be good at it in the future. Getting better and better. Shen Heshen immediately became energetic when he heard this. Thank you, Mr. Li. Li Wangsuan did not ask about the doubt. Anyway, as long as the painting is good, it's fine, and there's nothing to worry about when you think about it. Then he walked to Lu Sen's works in order. Listening to the wind in the bamboo sea, Li Wangsuan glanced at Lu Sen, who was full of confidence. I remember that I still have a painting of your grandfather's bamboo forest Tao Tao. Lu Jiazu, you can be considered a successor. That's it for the review. A quick glance shows that Lu Sen's works have the lowest evaluation, but looking at Lu Sen's face that is about to reach the ceiling, you can tell how satisfied he is with this review. But Li Wangsuan's next words made him hang his head again. It's just this bamboo's modesty. How come it didn't affect you at all? No one in the audience could hold back. Ha ha ha. The laughter was exceptionally consistent. Luxon. He could only comfort himself that Mr. Li was indeed the old man's student. When she walked up to Lin Yo, Li Wangsuan unusually did not look at the painting first, but looked at the person first. Lin Yo, is he the Lin Yo who was exposed as a plagiarized work in the previous National Youth Painting and Calligraphy competition, and was eventually disqualified from the competition by the judges of the competition? As soon as these words came out, Lin Yo's pupils could be clearly seen under the camera and suddenly shrank. The 1.8-meter tall man's body trembled visibly to the naked eye, which showed how powerful this question was. Arlene in the corner of the studio looked at her boyfriend on the big screen who was trying to control his emotions. She covered her mouth tightly and grabbed the chair beside her to prevent herself from impulsively rushing forward and rushing to the stage to protect her. The audience was also in an uproar. Most people who come to watch this show are familiar with the calligraphy and painting circle, and many people present already know the origin of Lin Yo, but what they didn't expect was that the fast-talking Mr. Li would actually do it in front of the camera. Ask such a sharp question. Think about it, if it were you, you might not be able to stand on the stage and accept scrutiny from all directions. Yes, Lin Yo nodded slowly after a long silence. The person you are talking about is indeed me, but I did not plagiarize. His voice was very soft at first, but then it gradually became louder. The last two words of plagiarism seemed to be spoken through clenched teeth. His dark eyes changed from the uncontrollable desire to dodge at the beginning until he looked straight at the camera that was sweeping over him and said with the final word, "Someone plagiarized my inspiration and ideas. It was that person who plagiarized my Under the Moonlight. I've been trying to collect evidence. What I hate most in my life is plagiarism." In the audience, a face that was originally full of ridicule suddenly became stiff. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 339. Plagiarism is not uncommon. Not just paintings, but also literary works, even an idea, or even a small cover. Information involving plagiarism has appeared online in various ways. The plagiarists and those being plagiarized confront each other and criticize each other, and there are often many people who come over to eat. But no matter what kind of plagiarism it is, everyone's attitude towards plagiarism is quite consistent. That is, no matter how curious they are about similar things, they deeply hate the situation itself. At this moment, everyone looked at Lin Yo standing on the stage with a face full of hatred, and heard the other party's loud voice in their ears, and they were all stunned for a moment. With this look, coupled with the painting The End of the World hanging next to it, which gives a feeling of despair mixed with a little hope, some people can't help but wonder, is there really something behind this? Could it be that someone really tricked you back then? After all, There are some people in this world who cannot see others being better than themselves. You even have to resort to means to drag the other party into the quagmire, completely unable to stand up. Especially today, there are people in the audience who have been plagiarized by so-called friends. Even if they are not hurt as badly as Linyo, they still feel the same at this moment. On impulse, he simply stood up from his seat, put his hands around his mouth in the shape of a trumpet and shouted to the stage, "Linyo, you said you found evidence, then just show the evidence on the stage. You are really being framed. It just so happens that Mr. Lee and Mr. John can help you get justice. Besides, there are millions of us viewers who can't help but still have the ability to distinguish right from wrong. Audiences, I believe those who will watch this show are discerning." The audience suddenly stood up and said this. The guests on the stage were still calm, but the program staff were shocked first. They did not arrange this link. The audience acted completely unexpectedly and spontaneously. Seeing this, I quickly went over to stop him, but was stopped by the director. Director Chen. Chen Wen waved his hand. "Don't be anxious, take a look first and then talk." He had an intuition that Mr. Lee might not have brought up Linyo's old story impulsively, but that it was intentional. Since it is intentional, there must be some purpose. It would be inferior to stop him directly. Since Mr. Lee planned to help Linyo, he might as well just wait and see how things get better. Perhaps with the addition of such a conflict, the program can be used to increase its popularity when it is aired. Linyo just realized that the Mr. Lee in front of him was not trying to uncover his scars, but was giving him a chance to defend himself in public. After looking at the old man in front of him gratefully, Linyo suddenly tilted his head and looked straight at one of the seats under the stage. After facing that face that was a little more panicked than before, I finally felt a little better. He didn't know why this person came to watch this show. Maybe he just wanted to see him laugh, or maybe he wanted to clear his name but in vain. After all, this person has always been so conceited. Then let's see who is the joke next. There must be many people here who don't know what happened to the plagiarism incident in the National Youth Painting and Calligraphy Competition 3 years ago. If you search online using keywords, you should be able to find a lot of information about this matter. But I want to say it myself today, everyone just needs to lend their ears and listen. 3 years ago, on the eve of the competition, my girlfriend Arlene just accepted my proposal. We made an agreement that after the competition is over and we get the prize, we will go to meet each other's parents and use the prize money from the competition to buy something we have already chosen. The wedding room. Therefore, the painting under the moonlight is not only my entry for the competition, but also our love work, my proposal gift to her. In the corner of the recording hall, Arlene's eyes were red and she covered her mouth tightly to prevent herself from crying. People say that the past is hard to look back on, but for them, that earth-shaking change is the real past that is hard to look back on. Everyone in the audience listened with deep emotion. If Linyo was really unjust, if that hadn't happened, how happy the couple would be. Now that he dares to go on the show to say it, he is probably very close to being wronged. He doesn't know who he is, so why is he so bad-hearted? If this happened to me, I would probably be in ruins. I'm really impressed that he was able to paint that painting, The End of the World. The two people sitting next to each other just said a few words, but the person sitting in front of them turned his head and said, "Okay, the endless chatter is annoying." One of them was about to retort when his arm was pulled by the neighbor and he winked again. Then he took a deep breath and endured it. "What's the matter? Let's just talk in a low voice. This guy is so arrogant and I can't even refute him." You don't recognize who this person is. Who is it? Could it be that he is a famous person? I can't say he's a celebrity, but I think he has nearly 1 million fans online. He's a rich young man who can draw. He has money in his family, and he has some talent. He looks like you just saw, he's a bit handsome. Many girls like this now. After all, there are not many of the same type. I just didn't expect my temper to be so bad. I almost thought he was going to hit someone, so I stopped you. You can't afford to mess with this kind of person. Tisk, I'm in trouble by the way, do you know what your name is? I don't know his real name, but I remember his online name is. Just in time, the voice from the stage arrived first, just when my Under the Moonlight was selected as the first prize of the competition. A hot search appeared on the internet, saying that my winning work had been plagiarized and had already been copied. Mr. Chen uploaded Moonlight to his homepage. When I found out about this hot search, I was stunned. I immediately went to see the painting Moonlight and recognized it as the first version I created at that time. But later I felt it wasn't perfect enough, so I came up with the second version. Offstage. What's it called? Why didn't you say it in the middle of the sentence? The companion who was being questioned looked at the figure sitting in front of him with complicated eyes. My name is Mr. Chen. Is this a coincidence? Probably not. Facing the astonished eyes next to him, the man slowly shook his head and whispered, I don't know whether this young man from the Chen family has been plagiarized, but he did use his family's money not long ago. My legal team sued a small internet celebrity with an account name that was very similar to his. I heard that the small internet celebrity not only lost the lawsuit but also lost a lot of money. At this moment, neither of them knew what to say. Just when the two of them chose to shut up silently and prepare to pay serious attention to the next development, they saw the young man from the Chen family sitting in front of them suddenly stood up from his seat and pointed straight towards Lin Yo, who was standing on the stage. You fart, don't beat me up. You clearly created Under the Moonlight after watching Moonlight. I want to see what evidence you can come up with. Everyone, oh. Who is this person who just stood up? Seeing that almost everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Yo and the man who had just stood up in the audience, Zhang Lingzi silently turned off the microphone on her body, then moved to Shen Yunqing's side without leaving a trace, signaling him to turn off the microphone as well. Then he said softly, this scene is getting more and more exciting. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 340. Who is this, that fan of Mr. Chen's family? It can't be the young master of the Chen family, right? Wait a minute, I really didn't notice this person just now, but you guessed it right about the person who spoke before. Let me go, is this going to be a live confrontation? This is getting more and more exciting. No one present expected that another person responsible for the plagiarism incident would be sitting in the audience. Lin Yo guessed that Chen Ju would stand up, but he didn't expect that he would be so restless. At this moment, facing the eyes that looked over in anger, Lin Yo's hand holding the microphone was still steady. He laughed sarcastically in his heart and then calmly said, the inspiration for Under the Moonlight came from an encounter on the beach under the moon. They were a little painter who was stuck in a bottleneck and couldn't find inspiration to break through, and the other was a girl who was trying to prove herself. They met on the beach under the moonlight. The little painter thought that the girl was going to jump into the sea, and the girl also thought that the little painter was going to commit suicide. Both of them forgot their own depression and chose to enlighten each other first. Aaron took the tissue from Lu Zhengzheng and thanked her, then went to wipe away the tears that she couldn't hold back in the end. When she heard the harsh sound in the audience, she couldn't hold back the disgust and glared at her. I don't have the heart to listen to your love story, so just tell me and everyone else, where is the evidence that you didn't plagiarize my Moonlight? I really thought that if you moved everyone, they would be biased towards you. Then as you wish. After obtaining permission, 3 more works were soon added to the stage. One of them was printed directly, and many people in the audience recognized it at a glance as the Moonlight that was uploaded to the internet by Mr. Chen. The edges of the other 2 papers are a little yellowed, and it can be seen that they have been there for several years. Lin Yo pointed to the 2 works, these 2 are the first and second editions of Under the Moonlight, and pointed to the printed one, this is Moonlight by Chen Ju, everyone. You can compare it with the first version of Under the Moonlight, Mr. Lee. You can also take a look. The program team quickly scanned all three works onto the big screen at Chen Yiwen's instruction. Now the audience in the back row could see clearly without craning their necks. Don't tell me, after such a comparison, the first two works are really similar, but the third one, the one in the competition, looks more interesting than the first two. Who knows if he is being old-fashioned on purpose? Chenju frowned and glared at the person who opened the mouth, while raising his hand vigorously in the direction of the host. I apply to be on stage. He didn't want to stand in the audience and be looked at so condescendingly by Lin Yo, as if he was criticizing him. The host also didn't expect that so many changes would happen to him just hosting a program. Seeing this, he quickly turned to the director for help. Chen Yiwen looked at Chen Shui, who was blushing and thick-necked. He pondered for 2 seconds and nodded. Although the audience does not have a mobile phone, he does have one in his hand. Just now, he had found out the identity of this person. A rich second-generation internet celebrity with millions of fans. So far, except for the moonlight on the stage, which I don't know whether it was plagiarized or copied, she has also sold several pretty good works in the past few years. The transaction price of a single painting, the highest one, is about 500,000, but I don't know if there are family members to support it. He is a high-profile person. The few works he sold have been uploaded to his homepage, and he has read them one by one. Although there are only photos on the internet and you cannot see the actual work, the quality does look pretty good. However, he didn't know if it was because he had appreciated the works of the guests so much in the past 2 days. Chenju's paintings always gave him an inexplicable sense of dissonance. But he couldn't figure out more. Maybe great painters like Mr. Lee and Mr. Zhang could figure it out. This is the main reason why he agreed to let Chenju come to power. After getting the microphone, Chenju couldn't wait to go on stage. Xianer introduced himself in an elegant way. Hello everyone, I am Chenju, and my online name is Chenjia Xiao. I can be considered a young painter now. I can't compare with these gentlemen on the stage, but I have also done auctions. Several works worth 400,000 to 500,000 yuan each. Looking at his confident expression, everyone couldn't help but feel a little shaken. If you really plagiarized it, you can't be so confident, right? At his current age, his works can sell for 4 to 5 million yuan, which should not be low. Is there any need to plagiarize? This is getting more and more confusing. I never thought it would be so exciting to watch a show live. Whose side are you on? Let's see. Qian Yuchen listened to the discussion around him and did not move his eyes away from the three works. Regardless of plagiarism or not, in her opinion, the brush strokes in the first painting Moonlight are the worst. Even though it looks almost identical to the second one, you can tell at a glance that it was painted by two people. The level of these two people is like that of junior high school students and college students. Let alone compare with the last one. But if Under the Moonlight really borrows the inspiration from Moonlight, no matter how good the painting is, it is still not advisable. I think the judges of the original competition should have made the same conclusion. To cut the knot quickly, let's calm down public opinion first. No matter what, the authority of the competition is the most important. As for whether there was really any unknown inside story, I couldn't care much about it at that time. You can see the level of the artist yourself, and Mr. Li and Mr. Zhang, who are on the stage at this moment, can definitely see it too. Li Wangsuan watched Chen Jui with cold eyes as he finished introducing himself. Just now Lin Yo talked about his original intention of creating Under the Moonlight, so tell me, how did you come up with the idea of creating this moonlight? Chen Juaneng choked with Lin Yo politely, but when facing Li Wangsuan, he suddenly became more and more angry. He blinked and replied, I was going to my beach villa for vacation, and the moonlight happened to be particularly beautiful one day. I painted this piece of moonlight out of curiosity, but there are so many twists and turns. The last sentence is obviously a satire on Lin You's original intention of creation. Jing Hui, who was just standing aside quietly at first, suddenly said, "For a long time, the way to determine who copied whom was based on who created earlier." Chen Ju glanced at him, then looked at Lin You provocatively. As early as when Lin You entered the competition with his copy of My Moonlight had already been uploaded to the internet. It's been several days. Everyone who knew about this timeline at the time knew it very well. As for this one, who knows if he deliberately drew an identical one later to confuse the public. As long as he casually wrote an earlier date, who knows this year? It doesn't look like it's old yet. Really, Lin You listened to Chen Ju's words calmly. I was really unprepared at the time and couldn't leave any evidence such as a painting video. Now I can't use these two paintings to make you admit it honestly. However, as long as some people taste the sweetness of something, they will not do it just once. He paused deliberately and looked at the disappearing smile on Chen Ju's face. You just said that about me. I deliberately copied a piece of your moonlight, right? It just so happens that I also have a piece of your work here. I bought it for 200,000 yuan, all my savings. I can reproduce all the works I have painted exactly as they were. Drawing it one stroke at a time, I can even copy your work to 8 or 9 points, but I want to ask, can you? Also, I wonder if you still remember the name Len Yuan. Bang, was the sound of the microphone falling to the ground as the microphone failed to be held firmly. Zhang Lingzi saw this, and when everyone looked at Chen Ju, whose reaction was obviously a little wrong, she and Shen Yunqing looked in the direction of Lin You. Take care of yourself step by step. Well, never underestimate the power of a person who wants revenge.